Hi everyone. In today's video, I want to walk through the steps about how we can get an Arch Linux installation through QEMU. And the reason why we're going to do this is that we can use this QEMU Arch Linux installation in order to do some kernel development. So what we're going to do is set up the Arch Linux installation. We're going to format a hard drive that QEMU will use, and we will go through the installation steps for a standard Arch Linux installation here. So to get started, you need to create an image for the Arch Linux to use as a hard drive. And the way that you do that is you type in QEMU image create, and we're going to call our image kernel-dev-archlinux.img, and we're going to give it a 10 gigabyte size. All right. So there we have it. It's ready to go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use this script, this QEMU script that I've created, in order to use the Arch Linux ISO that you download from archlinux.org, and I'll show you where you can get that. So in archlinux.org, you will go to the download area, and then you'll pick the torrent site to download it from. Now, this being July the 2nd, Arch has released some new ISOs to be used. I downloaded my ISO a few days ago, so I've gotten the June ISO, but it doesn't really matter when you're installing Arch Linux if you're a month or two behind. It's still good to be used as an installation media. So we're going to run this startup script. And the startup script requires that I type in Arch here to go through this area rather than the normal running area. So I'll start that up. And while we're at that, let's go into the installation guide. And what we're going to do is we're going to go from the disk partitioning area. Now, I like to use CF disk because it's a nice curses GUI, and I find that a little bit more helpful to me. Let's do an LSBLK here, and you'll see that we've got an SDA drive. So what we're going to do is CF disk that dev SDA drive. We're going to choose DOS. Then we're going to choose this all the free space to be used as the single SDA1 partition. Quit out of that. And now that you see we've got that SDA1. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to make FS ext4 on that dev SDA1, and it's all done. And now we're going to move through to the mounting steps. And we're going to move on to this step. And we're also going to do base dev as well as just base, because we want to have the base devel stuff, and that gives us, I believe, GCC, and we do want GCC on this installation. So because my internet connection isn't the greatest, as you can see, the actual install is going to take a little while here. We'll move on past. I'll either speed up the video playback, but there's other things that we can do to set up our Linux kernel while Gentoo or while Arch is actually being installed. So you can see there's a lot of stuff that's going to be downloaded. It's going to take quite a while. So let's get into a different tab on our terminal here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start grabbing our Linux kernel. Now, I've already downloaded the Linux kernel onto my hard drive in my kernels area. And you can see that I've got it right here. Let's actually go into it. This is the kernel mainline. And what we're going to do is a git pull just to make sure that it's nice and fresh. It's already up to date. All right, back into the area where we're going to be installing our Arch QEMU image. And let's do a git clone of that kernel that we downloaded for kernels.org. And it's called Linux. And we're going to call it Linux mainline here, just in case we want to have multiple different kernels. Now let's do a soft link to Linux from that Linux mainline. Did I do it backwards? There we go. All right, let's go into the Linux directory, and we're going to do a make old def config. And this is going to get us some kind of normalized kconfig setup. And it's actually going to be based on our Fedora install, I believe. I believe that's what old def config does. But anyways, we've got a basic kconfig setup. Now, if we want to, let's do a make menu config, and we can start playing with stuff. So one of the things that I'm interested in is the security options, and I'm interested in some of the LSMs. So this gives us a rather large set of LSMs here, such as SE Linux, Yammer, the integrity subsystem. We don't want the integrity subsystem. We don't want Yammer. I actually don't even want SE Linux available to us. But we want to make sure that we've got enabled different security models. So that's the security setup here. So that will enable us to use the different LSMs. So I'm not really familiar with some of these other ones, so let's just remove them. Let's keep all that stuff. And we don't want any of this actually, so okay. I'm gonna exit from this. And is there anything else that we want to look at? What's in our general setup here? We have the BPF system call enabled, but let's not play with anything else here. Let's exit out of this, and let's start a build. So I'm going to use J4 because I have a 4-core 8-threaded machine, but QEMU is obviously using. I've set up QEMU to use four threads basically. So let's only use 4 threads for our compilation. So let's see if this goes. So this is going to chug along happily, and on my system, it's going to take, if I compile with 8 threads, it usually takes me about half an hour. It really depends on all of the various configurations that you've done, so I'm not sure how long this is going to take, but it's going to take more than 5 minutes. Alright, so that step is done. We can move on. We're going to run this genfs tab command. And then we will chroot into that mount area. Okay. We don't need to worry about this stuff. We might as well set up our time zone. And we're not going to worry about that. We're going to set up our locales here. And we don't need to set up the keyboard layout, and we're not going to worry about the host names or anything like that. Let's skip the make init CPIO, and let's set a root password. All right. So let's do the bootloader now. And we're going to be using grub. Install grub. And run that command again. Alright, let's generate this main configuration file. Alright. And back to the regular installation. And what we need to do now is reboot. We should be finished. Now, I haven't done this in quite a while, so there might have been something that I missed, but we'll see in a second. So we're going to shut down now-h. Oh, we have to exit our root. And we have to unmount our dev SDA1. And shut down now-h. All right, let's go back to our script, and we're going to take away this CD-ROM line. And run our script again with Arch. And hopefully we boot up properly. We boot up into an Arch Linux system. All right, looking good so far. And we're in. Now, do we have wget? No, we don't have wget. So we need to install wget, but I want to show you an issue here. We want to get wget, but we don't actually have access to the internet right now. So in order to get access to the internet, it's dhcp cd and wait a few seconds. And now we should have wget. We should be able to grab wget. Okay, let's just wget https google.com. And we've got the Google webpage there. All right, so we're in. Let's make sure we're up to date here. And we are up to date. So we are right now running an Arch Linux install using the Arch kernel. So you can see that it's the Arch kernel here, 5.1.15-Arch1. They built it on June the 25th of this year. And I don't like the password that I have, so let's change the password again. All right, so shut down now-h, and let's wait for our kernel to compile. All right, while we're gonna wait for our kernel to compile, we need to take a backup of this, the file system for the Arch Linux install that we've just made. So I've already made a raw backup into this .bak file. Just to make sure that if anything happens during our next steps, that we don't lose all the progress that we've made so far. So what we want to do is we want to tar and gzip this up so that we've got a safe backup to use. So tar, we want to use gzip on that file, and we want to turn it into tar.gz. No, it doesn't like that. All right, try the -f option. Cannot stat the file. Are we going about it the wrong way? No, that's definitely not right. Get rid of that K, get rid of, oh geez. Okay, so that's why we made a backup. Because we've just hosed our .img file. So, delete that, make a copy of that backup back to All right, what do we got going on? Okay, so let's tar create gzip. We want to keep the file. We want to force it for the kernel dev archlinux.img. Why is it not allowing me to do this? All right, let's go to a tutorial on tar because I don't use it very often. CZVF, name of archive. All right. All right, the tarring has been completed, and we've got this tar gz file now. So what we want to do is delete the file that we made the tar gz from, and untar this file for testing purposes. And now we're going to extract it, and we want to put the K option on because we want to keep that tar gz file. So the file has finished untarring, and we've got our image file back. So let's run the startup script to make sure that we've still got a working Arch Linux system. And we're still good to go. All right, so I've paused the compilation of the kernel while we were doing that, just to, because my little Skylake NUC isn't the most powerful machine anymore, and I need all the power I can get for OBS and for doing that tar gz. So I will come back after the kernel has finished compiling. All right, so it's several hours later. I've been screwing around getting a Linux kernel to go. What I had to do to finally get a running Linux kernel for our Arch Linux system here is I eventually just deleted the Linux and Linux mainline. I grabbed, I recloned my code from here, which is just the Linux mainline. I did an old def config, and then I just built it the way that it came, and we get a running system running with our own kernel. So as you can see, I built it just today at 5 minutes ago, 8:52. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.